In one American city, the schools are closing, the storefronts are boarded up, and the people still there are mostly just waiting for a good enough reason to leave. Not the retirees, not the young families, not even the people who swore they'd never go. America is shifting, but nobody's telling you the whole story. Some cities aren't just losing people, they're losing the plot entirely. It's broken infrastructure, financial suffocation, and the slow, quiet death of places that used to mean something. We're counting down 12 U.S. cities people have stopped choosing to live in, and the brutal, uncomfortable truth behind every single one. Like this if you want data that actually matters. Subscribe if you'd rather know now than find out when it's too late. Let's go. Number 12. Birmingham, Alabama. The magic city that forgot the magic. Birmingham used to be called the Magic City because it grew so fast it seemed to appear out of nowhere. The magic has left the building. The population is down to around 196,000, losing 0.5% every single year. The poverty rate is 23.5%. Nearly 40% of children in this city are living below the poverty line. Not in the rural counties, in the city itself. The median household income is $44,000. That's 30% below the state average. And the state average isn't exactly keeping economists up at night with excitement. One local said it perfectly. We have the bones of a great city and the budget of a forgotten one. Living in Birmingham is like dating someone who keeps talking about who they used to be. Steel industry, civil rights history, medical research hub. Sure, but at some point you stop listening to the origin story and start noticing the lights are going out. Young people leave for Atlanta, professionals leave for Nashville. And what stays is the people who love Birmingham too much to admit it's been breaking their heart for decades. That's not loyalty, that's Birmingham syndrome. Number 11. Jackson, Mississippi. The capital with a plumbing problem. Jackson is the capital of Mississippi. That should mean something. It should mean investment, infrastructure, the heartbeat of the state. Instead, it means this. In 2022, the city made international headlines when its entire water system failed during a flooding event. Hundreds of thousands of Americans went without safe running water, not for hours, for weeks, in the capital of an American state. In the 21st century, the city lost over 2,000 residents in a single year between 2023 and 2024. Poverty rates rank among the highest of any state capital in the country. Hospitals have closed. Broadband is still considered a luxury 30 minutes outside of downtown. One Jackson resident put it simply, "We are American enough to pay federal taxes, but apparently not American enough to get running water when it rains." Every politician flies in, takes a photo in front of a pothole, and leaves faster than the water pressure drops. Meanwhile, locals are just trying to survive a city that the rest of the country treats like a problem to acknowledge at election time and forget immediately after. Jackson doesn't lack potential. It lacks anyone powerful enough who actually stays to fight for it. Number 10. Baltimore, Maryland. The city that has seen some things. Baltimore is so dramatic in its contradictions it practically writes its own crime script. Oh wait, it literally did. The city leads the entire nation in robbery rates. 487 robberies per 100,000 residents in 2025, even after a 19% drop from the year before. The homicide rate sits at 44 per 100,000. The poverty rate is 22.4%, roughly triple the national average. Here is the cruel irony nobody talks about. Baltimore is actually improving. Crime is genuinely falling. Homicide clearance rates jumped from 40% in 2020 to 68% in 2024. The mayor will tell you, and he is not lying. But here's the thing about spending 30 years as America's favorite cautionary tale. Reputation doesn't care about your progress report. People don't Google Baltimore and find a comeback story. They find the statistics. Then they move to Raleigh. Living in Baltimore is like dating someone who is genuinely working on themselves, but whose reputation got there first and already told everyone everything. Progress is real. The perception is realer. And in real estate, perception pays the mortgage. Number 9. Memphis, Tennessee, where the blues are not just a music genre. Memphis gave the world blues, soul, rock and roll, Beale Street, Elvis, and the sacrifice of Dr. King. What it cannot seem to give its own residents is a basic feeling of safety on the way to get groceries. Memphis holds the highest violent crime rate of any large American city. 2,500 violent crimes per 100,000 residents in 2024. That is nearly 6 times the national average. 6 times. The poverty rate is 25%. A full quarter of the city is living below the poverty line. Property crime hits 6,800 per 100,000, second only to Oakland in the entire country. One Memphis native said it the way only a local can. I love this city the way you love a family member who keeps making the same mistake. You don't stop loving them. You just stop being surprised. And to be fair, Memphis recorded 30% fewer homicides by end of 2024 than the year before. Progress is real, but when you have spent decades at the top of every wrong list, one good year doesn't rebuild trust. It just makes people cautiously optimistic on their way out the door. Number 8. Detroit, Michigan. Affordable, absolutely. Livable, still working on it. Detroit is the most affordable major city in the country. Median home price around $200 to $2,000 in 2025. You can buy a house in Detroit for less than a used Tesla in San Francisco. So why is everyone still leaving? Because cheap housing without opportunity is just a discounted version of despair. Detroit's population dropped from nearly 1.9 million in 1950 to fewer than 650,000 today. That is a 65% loss across 7 decades. Not a dip, a slow-motion evacuation that America never fully processed. The violent crime rate sits at 1,781 per 100,000, more than triple the national average. When the auto industry restructured, it didn't just close factories, it closed entire ways of life. Neighborhoods, schools, the barbershop your grandfather went to every Saturday for 40 years. Detroit is rebuilding downtown. Genuinely. Cranes are back. Investment is arriving. But downtown's revival and the neighborhoods surrounding it are not having the same conversation. One longtime resident said it straight. Downtown Detroit looks like the future. Everywhere else still looks like the aftermath. And the people in the aftermath have been waiting long enough. Number 7. Chicago, Illinois. The city that charges you for everything except results. Chicago is world-class in nearly every way that doesn't involve your bank account or your blood pressure. Legendary architecture, elite universities, food scene that New York secretly respects and publicly denies. And then you get the bill. Chicago has lost residents for 9 consecutive years. Illinois overall lost close to 800,000 people over the last decade. Property taxes average $9,500 per year, the highest in the nation. State debt sits at over $140 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. A crisis 30 years in the making that has been solved exactly 0 times. One longtime resident described it with perfect exhaustion. This city is like a luxury building that charges you for a gym you can't access, a doorman who's never there, and a view of a parking garage. You pay premium taxes. You still hit potholes the size of small ambitions. You fund world-class schools on paper and get funding gaps in practice. Chicago doesn't lose people because it's boring. It loses them because one morning they do the math, look at Nashville's forecast, and quietly start making calls. Number 6. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The city of brotherly love and brotherly excuses. Philadelphia lost 53,000 residents between 2020 and 2023. 3.3% of its population gone. Some moved to the suburbs. Others headed south for lower taxes and a house they could actually afford. Remote work handed knowledge workers a permission slip to leave and they took it. Here is what makes Philadelphia genuinely painful to watch from the outside. It has everything. Real history, not the manufactured kind. Neighborhoods with actual soul that newer Sunbelt cities are still trying to purchase at scale. Some of the best food in the country. A cultural identity so strong it borders on aggression. And it still holds the highest poverty rate among the 10 largest American cities. Nearly 1 in 4 residents lives below the poverty line, in a city sandwiched between 2 of the wealthiest corridors on the East Coast. The school district has faced funding crises so long, they're basically a tradition. One lifelong Philadelphian said what everyone already knows. This city has everything it needs to be great. It just keeps choosing not to be. That's not a city problem. That's a policy problem wearing a city's face. Number 5. San Francisco, California. Tech utopia with a homeless encampment aesthetic. San Francisco lost around 3,300 more residents between 2024 and early 2025 bring in the total down to approximately 842,000 from a pre-Exodus peak above 880,000. To afford a median-priced home here, you need an annual salary of $321,000. Monthly mortgage on a median property clears $7,500. And yet in April 2025, 71% of listings still sold above asking price, which tells you exactly who San Francisco belongs to now. One departing resident put it in a way that landed like a closing argument. I made more money than I ever imagined. I still couldn't feel financially stable. San Francisco isn't a city anymore. It's a competition. Remote work broke the core logic of living here. If you don't need to commute to a Bay Area campus, why pay San Francisco prices to watch your neighborhood's street conditions become an international documentary? San Francisco isn't dying. It has survived worse. But right now, it is charging luxury prices for a product that is visibly under renovation, and the residents footing the bill have started quietly reading the fine print on their lease. Like this video if you have ever looked at a rent price and made a sound you didn't plan to make. Subscribe because the cities still ahead on this list are why that sound has a name. Number 4. New York City, New York. The most expensive breakup in American history. New York City has lost nearly 500,000 residents since the start of the pandemic. 500,000. An entire mid-sized American city's worth of people who looked at New York and said, I love you, I genuinely love you, but I cannot keep doing this to myself. Buying a home here requires an annual income of $200,000, roughly double the pre-pandemic threshold. Monthly rent for a 3-bedroom apartment in Manhattan now exceeds $8,300, making it the most expensive rental market on the entire planet. Not in America. On the planet. And New York keeps absorbing newcomers anyway because its gravitational pull is unlike anything else on Earth. But the people leaving are not the dreamers. They are the nurses, the teachers, the firefighters, the ones who keep the city functioning while the city steadily prices them out of it. One former resident said it quietly, and it stuck. New York doesn't break you. It just bills you until you break yourself. And the most expensive part isn't the rent. It's realizing the city never noticed you left. Number 3. Portland, Oregon. The world's most expensive social experiment. Portland was the darling of American urban cool for most of the 2010s. Artisan coffee as a civic religion. Bike lanes as a love language. Progressive policy as an entire personality. Then reality sent a follow-up email. From 2020 to 2023, Portland lost over 17,000 residents, 3.3% of its population, while the rest of the country was growing. The city gained back only 1,400 in 2024 and is still more than 17,000 below its peak. Downtown office vacancy hit 35% in early 2025, the highest rate in the entire nation. Target closed. REI closed their flagship. Walmart closed. Green Zebra Grocery closed. Oregon's Measure 110, decriminalized hard drugs, was hailed nationally as visionary and was reversed in 2024 after street conditions became indefensible. One Portland resident said what a lot of people thought but struggled to say out loud. We ran the experiment. We published the results. Nobody liked the results. Portland didn't fail because its values were wrong. It failed because good values without functioning infrastructure is just an ideology with a rent check attached, and the rent was too high for the ideology to survive. Number 2. Los Angeles, California. The dream that forgot to read the insurance policy. Los Angeles has been selling the dream for 100 years and charging interest since day one. The median home price in Los Angeles requires an annual income of $224,000, nearly 3 times the national median household income of $83,000. Monthly housing costs for owners regularly clear $5,000. The homeless population of LA County is among the highest in the nation, visible under every freeway overpass, in every park, on every beach access road, a daily full-scale reminder of what happens when a housing market fails an entire economic tier of its own city. And then the wildfires arrived with a bill nobody budgeted for, Homeowners insurance has been canceled or made unaffordable in entire neighborhoods. Some hillside areas are now functionally uninsurable through standard carriers. Living in Los Angeles is like dating someone so extraordinary, you keep telling yourself the chaos is part of the charm. Right up until the insurance company sends a letter, and you realize the chaos has a deductible. People keep arriving from around the world, pulled by the same mythology that has been reeling in dreamers since the 1920s. But the people quietly leaving are the ones who finally ran the numbers and stopped lying to themselves. Number 1. St. Louis, Missouri, the most honest city in America. St. Louis holds the number 1 spot for population loss among major American cities according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Between 2020 and 2024, it lost 21,700 residents. The current population sits at approximately 279,000. In 1950, it was over 850,000. That is a 67% loss in 70 years. Not a dip, not a correction. A generational evacuation in slow motion that the country keeps choosing not to fully reckon with. The overall crime rate stands at 8,700 per 100,000 across all categories. Housing is genuinely cheap. Median home in St. Louis costs less than a year of rent in San Francisco. And people are still leaving. Because cheap housing in a city where the jobs left, where safety feels like a negotiation, still reliably better than today, is not a solution. It is a symptom. Researchers found that the loss of families with children is the single defining driver of St. Louis's collapse. When families stop choosing a city, you are watching an entire generation decide there is no future worth raising a child into. One longtime resident said it with the kind of honesty that only comes from watching somewhere you love disappear in front of you. St. Louis doesn't need a rebrand. It needs someone to stay. St. Louis is not America's forgotten city. It is America's most honest city. The one that stopped pretending the dream was available to everyone, stopped putting a filter on the math, and let 70 years of numbers do the talking. We just keep not listening. If this list made you angry, sad, or uncomfortably aware of your own zip code, drop it in the comments. Subscribe because America is shifting faster than the headlines can process, and this channel is where you find out what is actually happening before it becomes a trend you were too late for.